All right, we're ready to start off. So today we're going to talk about simplification and symbols. So what do we call symbols? Well, I think this one you're pretty common with. This is the universal symbol for man and woman. And it's understood by people of all shapes, colors, attire, not because it looks like anybody, but because it clearly represents the human form. So even though, it doesn't look like anybody, we still know that's the human. So it's a universal symbol, meaning everybody understands it and uses it. And how do we design these symbols, these universal symbols? Well, we reduce the drawings down to the simplest forms. We want to have the lack of detail. So looking at this example, you have a photograph and then a very detailed drawing and then a silhouette. And then we move it into what allows the symbol to become a generic representation of something. So then we simplify it even more so that it can be more representational, especially from a distance, so we can kind of understand it and see it from a distance. There's also things about that are abstract symbols. They don't look like something we recognize. This generic representation is not always of a thing. Sometimes it's an idea, a concept. Here's an example of a biohazard symbol. It was designed to be learned to represent what it stands for. In other words, we have to teach what it is. We have to show it what it is so that people understand what it is. The design brief was they wanted something that was memorable but meaningless so that they could educate people as to what it means. And that was a quote from the engineer who co-created it in 1966. So the idea that sometimes we want to make a very specific symbol that is of an abstract. How many of us play Pictionary? Any fans of Pictionary? Yeah, definitely. Okay. So when we're playing Pictionary, we're trying to communicate a word non-verbally, only using drawings. So we're already undergoing a process of simplification in our heads. So when we're having to work quickly, like in Pictionary, we're trying to think, how quickly can we communicate this idea? And what do we need to include? What don't we need to include? So here's a little example. Is it really necessary to draw curly hair on a head to show headache? Or do we need to show pox all over a face to show sick? So how many things do we need to include to communicate the concept or idea? So that's a game that you want to keep thinking to yourself. And I think Pictionary is a good way to think about this project. Is like, how do we simplify and do it quickly so people recognize it quickly? What can we take away? So we're going to explore simplifying. Here's an example of successful symbols, logos that you all recognize. They are immediately recognizable, but when we compare them to their actual real life counterparts, they are, as you can see, quite simplified. The idea of how much can be taken away. They need to work in a small size. They must not depend on color, and they need to be very clear. So here's some good examples of that. Now, these are some examples that I found in the hallway of our students that worked on this project last year. So here's simplification of a dancer by Jessica Butler. Here's an illustration of birds, a rooster and another bird. Not sure what kind of bird the second one is. Here's more birds. And here's some fruit. So there's all different kinds of interpretations of these symbols that we look at when we're starting to think about, how much can we take away to make it still look like those objects? So as you saw in the samples, of course, we had the big icons, the logos, which were very simplified. And then the student samples, they are taking photos of things and taking from those photos and reducing and simplifying them down to see how simplified they can get. So let's talk about how do we go about doing that. So one second. Okay, so now you're seeing, are you guys seeing the bulldog?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So now you're seeing the bulldog, and here is an example of sketching over the illustration. So we're using that tracing paper or our marker paper and printing out our illustration, our photo, and just sketching the outline. You can see this is purely just moving directly into the outline. Here's an example where taking and saying, are there any shapes within this bulldog? And so you can see they took a compass and started drawing a curve to say, what if I use circles, and started thinking about circles and how do I organize shapes. And so that's another way to look at when you're looking at simplifying anything we're drawing, is to break it down into simple shapes. And so here you can see looking at where are the circles inside the bulldog, and then how would I maybe connect those circles, and just simply taking your time and sketching out that silhouette of the dog. And notice that you're going to keep drawing it to kind of try different variations. How curvy do you want to make the back? How rounded do you want to make the rump or the the schnauzer part of the dog? Like, you can see the different shapes used here in this example. So the idea of just continuing to make it your own and kind of think about where you're going with it. Now you see, once the illustration has been outlined and you have the basic shape, you start filling in the shadows and creating contours within it to help simplify it. I'm going to move up the speed a little bit on this. So once there's a single sketch, you can see that he is now going in and drawing over an existing sketch. Here's an example of outlining it with different heavy, showing the weight of it where the shadows would be, and playing with the weights and the heavy. And then now, and I'm going to just show you the whole process because I want you to see where we're going to go with this. He is now taking it in the sketch into Illustrator, and he's using the pen in Illustrator to trace all of the shapes he made. And this is using the pen tool in Illustrator to do that. So now he has a vector drawing of the whole thing. And then once it's in Illustrator, you can see it's very malleable. It doesn't have to stay in the same way that it was before. Here you can see it's moving. You can adjust, you can move the shadow around, you can change the shape, you can add more shapes. So there's a lot more we can do once we take it into Illustrator. It doesn't have to, it's not stagnant. The work is not done once we get it to Illustrator. The illustration, we have the sketching phase. Oops, and then this is moving into something else. So I'm going to pause it. Okay. So once we find the image we want, we're going to sketch it, but not just sketch it once. We're going to sketch it multiple times and look at all the different things we can find within that image. I highly recommend looking for shapes. I think that's a great way to think about simplicity, is by looking at shapes. Then we're going to draw a series of them. So for each one, we want to draw multiple of them so that we can kind of get a feel for the look and feel of it. Once we have it where we feel good about the final hero drawings, we'll call them, we'll then take a marker. We're going to use the fine point and the chisel tip markers to kind of give us that heavier line around it, so we can kind of play with the thickness and the thinness. You can also do it like this illustrator did, with a very soft pencil, like a 2B pencil or a 3B pencil. But it's helpful to, I think, have a marker sometimes to go with that. And yeah, so I'm going to pause here. Do we have any questions as we're thinking about, as you're kind of seeing that kind of process? Okay, good. Excellent.
What
All right.
have you used before?
I'm so sorry. You broke up. I didn't hear what you said. Can you repeat?
What if, like, I've never used like Illustrator before. Should we just like refer to like online, like YouTube tutorials?
I'm going to walk you through it when we get to that point.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to learn how to, I know there's many of us that have never used Illustrator. Don't worry. So I'm going to walk you through how to use the tools in Illustrator when we get to that point. So right now we're just using our tracing
Is it
paper
the
or our
same
marker
as
paper.
Photoshop?
No, well, what do you mean? Is it the same?
Actually, the tools, is it the same or not?
Some are, yes, some are very similar to Photoshop. Some are different, some are the same. The big difference between Photoshop and Illustrator is Photoshop is rasterized, and Illustrator is vector art. So you have pixels and bitmap images in Photoshop, and you have vector PostScript illustrations in Illustrator. So in other words, if once we design something that's a vector art in Illustrator, we can make it the size of a billboard if we want, or we can make it the size of a postage stamp. And it won't affect the image quality. It'll be perfect in both situations. In Photoshop, you have to design your work for the size it's going to be output. Because if you blow up an image from Photoshop, it's going to get all blurry because it's pixel based. So it has it's going to be all blurry and pixelated. If we go big, then it can only go smaller. So there's a big difference in the way the two applications, the type of artwork they make. And so in graphic design, the majority of the work we do is vector based, and therefore we use Illustrator. All right. You're welcome. Good question. And that actually, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, are we, how many do we just do like however many drawings we want, or?
I'm going to walk you through the assignment sheet next.
Okay,
That's
sorry.
a good question.
Sorry.
No, it's good questions, all good questions. So let me go back to desktop 2 and get out of that and move over here to, I thought I had it up. Yes, I do. Okay, here we go. Desktop 2. There we go. Okay, you're seeing the assignment sheet. So here is, I'm going to zoom it up a little bit. Here's the assignment sheet for this next project. So we're going to learn, the objective here is to learn to develop a symbol by simplifying photographic reference material into solid areas of black to white, and select utilized photographic reference suitable for the simplification of the process, to convey the subject matter in its most minimal terms through simplification, retaining only essential characteristics that make it recognizable. So as a group, we're going to, as a class, we're going to develop a list of subjects. We're going to talk about like what would be suitable subjects for this project. So we're going to talk about that as a group. So our process is going to be using tracing paper or marker paper and pencil to simplify your chosen images as we just demonstrated. We're going to combine natural and geometric shapes to generate abstracted and simplified visuals. We're going to distill the subject matter down to the most essential parts we need. Avoiding using a line or tone to compositions. We want pure areas of black and pure areas of white. There's no gray in this. It's white and black. That's it, 2 colors. And so we're going to decide what kind of images we're going to get. We're going to choose our images. And we're going to search online. We're going to look at copyright-free sites such as pixabay.com and unsplash.com. And we're going to consider combining natural and geometric shapes, like I just talked about. So we're gonna pause here.
Yeah, I
And
use Unsplash a lot. It's good.
yeah, it is. Unsplash is very good. Good. I'm glad you're using it. Anyone else using Unsplash or any other copyright-free sites that you recommend? Nancy, good. Excellent. Wonderful. Okay, we're going to log into Mural, and I'm going to give you each a workspace to work in. So we're going to go over here to our Graphic Design 1 section. And I'm going to move something here. I'm going to stop sharing for just a second. I'm going to move this so I can look straight at it. Okay. So I've created a Project 2 folder, and what I'd like you to do is join me by, so you're going into our Spring 24 Graphic Design 1 classroom. You're going to click on Project 2, and you should come into this space. And then I should be able to see you all in the space as you come in. Is everyone able to come in? Are you seeing it? Okay. Once you're here, you're going to go into New Mural. And when you click that red button that says New Mural, it's going to say COD Classroom, SP24 Graphic Design. If it doesn't say this, if it says like your name, for example, here, you want to just scroll down till it says SP24 Graphic Design 1. And then the folder is Project 2. And then you're going to say Create Mural. And when it says that, it says up here at the top, you have an untitled mural. It's just a big whiteboard. You're going to say, put your name in here. So I'm going to make one for me. Amy's P2. I'm going to call it P2 so I know it's Project 2. If I want to go back to that room, I'm just going to click on the M, and then it'll show me everybody's boards. So if it, yeah, so there's mine, and I can see my name, Amy's P2. Now there's a few untitled ones. So in the upper left, if yours says untitled, go ahead and add your name. Good job, Luna. So you have your name on yours. So add your name to your board. Is anyone having a problem creating a board?
Sorry, I'm having a problem. Could you just go over how to do that one more time?
Not a problem.